Yeah, so we did talk about the balance scorecard, and we spoke about some items that our examiner is interested in. Now, the balance scorecard is a widely examined model, and the examiner expects that you must be experts on this model, because in our paper PM also, it is very much there. The balance scorecard approach, performance measurement and control, emphasizes the need to provide management with a set of information which covers all relevant areas of performance. So normally that is what is said about this model, that it covers all relevant areas. And if we have a business that monitors all these areas and they do so well with effective KPIs, we expect that organization should really become world-class with time. We expect that such an organization should become world-class. It focuses on 4 different perspectives and uses financial and non-financial indicators. Just to reinforce what we covered in our class, here is another simplified way of looking at the scorecard. The 4 perspectives are customer, where we answer the question, what is it about us that new and existing customers value? So that is another way of looking at the customer perspective. What is it that customers value? The new customers. So that's the question that we want to address. What are the aspects of performance? So we need to identify those aspects of performance. Next to the customer perspective is, what processes must we excel at to achieve our financial and customer objectives? So the model helps us to identify the processes and monitor the processes that we must excel at, so that we keep our customers happy and also improve our financial results. Innovation and learning, how can we continue to improve? So this is there to help our companies improve, but also create future value. So are we positioned to create value in the future? Is our business really sustainable? Can we say that we are running a business which is sustainable? How do we create value for our shareholders? How do we create value for our shareholders? So look at the financial performance. Yes, it's the traditional measures, but the key issue is we must look at things from the shareholders' point of view. Have we created value for our shareholders? Are we creating value for our shareholders? Within each of these perspectives, the company should seek to identify a series of goals and measures or KPIs for those goals. That is sometimes the difficult part of the model. We need to come up with goals. What should be your goal in each one of these areas? And what KPIs are you going to monitor, to monitor those goals? So we've got an example here. I think this is sort of an example that may be useful to a number of us. This is a sort of example. Our first pasta is an Italian fast food restaurant that specializes in high quality, moderately priced, authentic Italian pasta dishes and pizzas. The restaurant has recently decided to implement a balanced scorecard approach and has established the following relevant goals for each perspective. So this is a good example for this type of an organization over how we can come up with the goals. And subsequently, these goals will lead us to measures. In a customer perspective, what could be the goal? To increase the number of new and returning customers. To increase the number of new and returning customers. So that's a goal. So what could be the measures? Repeat business, isn't it? Repeat business. Customer retention. Proportion of new customers. So how many new customers? So one report on the number of new customers. Those that are with you, we want to make sure they come again. So the number of new customers, the retention rate, how many customers have we retained? Another example of a goal for this business could be to reduce the percentage of customer complaints. We know in restaurants that normally a number of us do patronize restaurants. One item that is common is we all have one complaint or another about the restaurants that we patronize. So you want to reduce the percentage of customer complaints. That's an example for this particular business. What of internal processes? Internal processes are very important for us to service our customers better. So what could be some of the internal processes in a restaurant to reduce the time taken between taking a customer order and delivering the meal to the customer? Now that process is very important. It's a process which can upset a lot of customers, which could pacify them or make them happy. So the internal process there. People are very, very important in this business. People are very important because people are the ones that provide the service by and large. It's the people that we need. So to reduce the staff turnover, because if you have got a high staff turnover, that will certainly affect your relationship with customers. I'm sure you have seen a trend where a number of us go to some restaurants because there's a particular chef, there's a particular person that serves us very well. When you just reach in a place, I don't know if you have been to such, you reach in a place, as soon as you sit down, somebody brings the usual coffee. They already know about you. that coffee, that tea that you take, they already know. Or that bottle of water, they even know when you land there. Why? Well, that only happens when the staff turnover is low. That only happens when the staff turnover is low, where people are now providing a consistent service. They even know the customers by name. Innovation and learning to increase the proportion of revenue from new dishes. That's your goal. The revenue from new dishes. And the measure then will be the percentage of revenue that is coming from a new dish. So if we call your revenue 100%, what percentage of this is coming from new dishes? That gives you an idea of the level to which you are innovative. To increase the percentage of staff time spent on training. Staff time spent on training. How many training hours? What was our training budget as a percentage of our revenue? And lastly, in terms of financial, to increase the spend per customer. And that's true. You don't want customers who just go straight into the main meal, isn't it? You want also customers who take a bit of a starter, they go into the main meal, and afterwards they take some sweet course of some kind, and in between also there's a fair spend on the drinks. So that is a relevant financial measure for this type of a business. Remember, we're making reference to this type of a business. So these must be relevant to the type of a business that you're looking at. To increase gross profit margins, now that's very, very important. It's not just a matter of how much people spend, but how much margin are you making? Are you efficient in your cost management? How efficient are you in cost management? How efficient are you in cost management? So I hope this example helps us to see how we could develop the goals and subsequently the measures for this type of a business. These are not the only ones, but they give you a starting point. Yeah. And especially if you run that type of a business, you would agree that yes, those would be sensible measures or goals and measures for this type of a business.
Hello, sir.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, thank you so much for this. So for some of the, okay, for under internal staff turnover, so staff turnover ratio or staff retention can be used, right?
Yes.
Okay. Then for the customer, to reduce the percentage of customer complaints. So can that be percentage increase of customer complaint or percentage? Yeah, percentage increase of customer complaint. Or using customer survey to get the satisfaction rating.
Yes.
No.
Yes.
Can we use it? Okay.
Customer surveys, you can use customer surveys as well. Or just the number of complaints. The number of complaints that you receive. Okay. For every 100 customers, how many complaints do you get?
Okay, so in this case, you're considering the number of customers. So is it going to be number of complaints to customers, or how should we put it?
Okay. So there are different ways. There are different ways of putting the same. So reduce the percentage of customer complaints. So normally we say that for every 100 customers, how many complaints did we have? So maybe it was 20%, 20 out of 100. Then we don't want to reduce this. So we're always going to have the customer complaints. So we can count the complaints that have been raised, especially on, sometimes they just give you a form to fill in. Sometimes you can pick. Sometimes you just indicate areas where what people are not happy with. So you count all those. Then you want to start reducing on those.
Okay.
At some point also, I'll try to bring another one from another industry so that we can also have a look at a different one from another industry.
Okay.
The benefits of the balanced scorecard, we saw some yesterday, but here again, we have tested some. It focuses on factors, including non-financial ones, which will enable a company to succeed in the long term. It provides external as well as internal information. Problems, the selection of measures can be difficult. For example, how would the company measure innovation? For some businesses, how would you measure innovation? Obtaining information can be difficult. For example, obtaining feedback from customers can prove difficult sometimes. If you're in the retail industry, you're running a supermarket, how do you get the customer feedback? Because customers are always in a hurry there. Information overload due to the large number of measures that may be chosen. This one, we didn't have it yesterday on our list. Conflict between measures, for example, profitability may increase in the short term through a reduction in expenditure on staff training. So these are some of the items that can be raised. We had some of these too. On a Saturday also, we discussed a building block model. I've captured something as well here. Performance measurement in service business has sometimes been perceived as more difficulty than manufacturing businesses because of those 5 characteristics of a service. The 5 characteristics of a service: simultaneity, heterogeneity, perishability, intangibility, and the last one,
simultaneity,
and the transfer of ownership. Yeah.
Oh, okay. No transfer of ownership.
Yes. So Fitzgerald and Moon suggested that a performance management system in a service organization can be analyzed as a combination of 3 blocks: dimensions, standards, and rewards. And these are the 3 building blocks that we discussed. And we had these blocks, that standards, an element of ownership, achievability, and equity is important. And we need to set standards on these dimensions: profitability and competitiveness. And we say that these are what we call the results. or the outcomes. And these outcomes result from these inputs. These are the inputs, or what we also call determinants. And once people have achieved their targets, we must give a reward. And a good reward must be clear in terms of the formula that is used in the computation. It must have a motivational impact. And also it must be within the control of the recipient. Now again, let's look at an example here. Let's look at an example. We've captured some examples of these areas. Financial performance. What are some of the possible measures? These are not all the measures, but some of the possible measures, or what we normally call the KPIs. What are the KPIs, possible KPIs that can be used? Profitability, profit growth, gross profit margin, net profit margin. These are examples of some KPIs that you can use. What of competitiveness? Are you competitive? Growth in sales, retention rate for customers, success rate in converting inquiries into sales. Especially on the websites, those people, out of so many hits, so many become orders. Service quality, number of complaints. Customer satisfaction as reviewed by customer opinion surveys. Flexibility, are we able to respond quickly and timely to the ever-changing customer needs? Mix of different types of work done by employees. If your employees are multi-skilled, they can work as auditors, they can also work as management consultants, they can work as tax advisors. Then you are saying that, wow. Then we can be flexible in the way we service our customers. Speed in responding to customer requests. How quickly do we respond? Resource utilization. Efficiency, productivity measures. How productive are we? How productive are we? How efficient are we? To what extent do we utilize capacity? Or what is your percentage of idle time? If you are working in the public practice, you've got those auditors there, you've got those consultants there. What is their percentage of billable time? You spend 40 hours a week at work. In the whole month, as a consultant, you spend 160. Out of this, how much was billed, was invoiced? I remember myself as a young consultant in one of the big four. It would be stressful if you haven't worked on a very good or several assignments. When you're putting in your return at the end of the month or at the end of 6 months before a review, it could be stressful. Where now you say, okay, we paid you for so much, but how much time did you bill according to the timesheets to your clients? So sometimes we find that it's very low. And if it's consistently low, what happens? Maybe time for you to leave the firm. Innovation, number of new services offered within the previous 1 year or 2 years, or whatever it is. So this table again, we brought it here so that it can give us an idea of some of the possible KPIs. Remember, performance management at the end of the day is about KPIs. You people must be experts in evaluating, assessing, and suggesting possible KPIs. We have seen several times in the exams where we're expected to suggest some possible KPIs. That's part of your responsibility as a performance consultant.
Sir.
Yes, sir.
With regards to the competitiveness or competitive performance, can growth in market share be useful?
Yes, market share can work.
Okay.
Market share can work because you see, and in fact, it's very important that you continue to assess your market share. Although it's not very easy also to measure. Market share is not very easy. Well, these others may be easy because it's you yourself, like growth in your sales. If your sales are grown, and this must be accurate, yeah. Retention rate of customers, there's no way you can miss that one. But market share sometimes is very complicated. Yeah, let's take an example. When you talk about market share, which market are you talking about? So like training, like when you talk about training here, you've got the professional qualifications, you've got the degree markets, you've got local programs, you've got international programs. So the definition of the market within just accountancy training can be so wide. So when you want to talk about your market share, you need to be very, very careful about the definition of the market share. So
okay,
it's a very important, it's a powerful measure actually. You need to know the market, but it may not be easy to come up with a very accurate assessment.
Okay, sir. Sir, let me play the devil's advocate. So for growth in sales, what if there is general growth in the economy and we have recorded growth in sales?
So that is
due to the fact that we were more competitive than we were.
So you can compare this with economic growth, because if the economy grew by 4%,
okay,
but you grew by 6%,
okay,
that is good. So compared with economic growth. But also externally, you can compare with your competitors, because normally everybody is going to boast about their sales. Oh, sales grew by 40%, 20%, 30%. So you want to see the number one, what was the growth in sales? How does that compare with mine? But okay.
Thank you, sir.
Thanks. Okay, so let's now make a move to, so there's a question here.
Sir.
Yes, sir.
Maybe before we move on, maybe can you help us now? How do we link these dimensions to the standards?
Yeah, how do you link this to the standards, right? Have you seen this question which is here? Have you seen the question here? Explain how standards and the rewards blocks support the dimension block. What do you think about that question? Could it be the question you are looking for also?
Yes.
It's the one, eh? Good. So I'll take you straight to the suggested solution on this part of the question, and so that we see the support that exists between these, right? So I'm going to do that straight away so that we can discuss it.
Hello, sir.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, using my own layman approach, can I try to
Yes,
explain the
please.
link?
Yes, please.
So for each dimension, we set a target, which our standards. So we must have a standard in which to measure performance. And based on the achievement of those targets, or yes, which we have set on the dimension, then we reward those achievement of targets, which will also help us in achieving our dimension. Like there'll be improved quality of service. So as people are achieving those targets, which were set on the dimension, then as we are rewarding them, they will get better, there's improvement in those dimensions.
Excellent. Excellent. Let's look.
So
Let's
can I say something?
Yes, please.
Sorry.
Yes, please.
So I just want to know if I responded like this, if the answer was going to be wrong. So I would say the dimensions are the critical success factors, which must be measured with the key performance indicators in the standards and then rewarded in the rewards block.
Perfect summary. Perfect summary. Perfect summary. The standards block sets the target for the performance indicators chosen for each dimension. So you've got performance indicators, performance indicators for each one of the dimensions. What are some of these performance indicators for each one of the dimensions? What are some of the performance indicators for each one of the dimensions? Let's do this. Let's see, share it here.
Okay.
Let's share it here. Okay, so I'm trying to share some space here. So these are some of the dimensions. For instance, profitability, profit growth, or gross profit margin. So you can take gross profit margin here. So the point is that the standard block sets a target for a performance key indicator for each of the dimensions. So here, like for gross profit margin, you can set a standard. Net profit margin, you set standard. Competitiveness, growth in sales, we can put a standard. And the standard should have those characteristics, sign. Yeah. The target must meet 3 criteria. They must be achievable, fair, and encourage employees to take ownership. If the targets say do not meet these criteria, then the performance on the organization could suffer. The reward block ensures that employees are motivated to achieve the standards. It also considers the properties of good reward schemes, which are that they should be clear, motivating, and based on control factors. If standards and rewards are set appropriately, the staff will be engaged and motivated, and it is then more likely that the goals, that is the dimensions or of the organization, will be achieved. Have we picked something from there?
Yes, sir.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. So now we've got an exercise here. The exercise is for each of the dimensions of the building block model, calculate one performance indicator for MSC and one for ASC average using the data available. Briefly justify your choice of performance indicator and discuss MSC performance relative to the other OSC service centers. So that is the exercise we want to do this evening. Okay. So this evening, let us do this exercise together. I know you may be tired, but let's spend a few minutes reading through and try some performance indicators. Then we can share the suggested solution. So before we can share it, please, let's read through. I've shared this question paper on your forums. So please get your forum, take your pen, your pencil, whatever it is, read through quickly. Then let us see if we can come up with performance indicators, at least one for each one of the dimensions. So how many minutes can we give ourselves? How many minutes can we give ourselves for this exercise? Okay, so I'm sure you have read through the question, You understood the story.